Hi, hello, my name is Carly and welcome back to my channel. Here I like to talk about books and things and stuff. It's been a minute since I've done a video. Life happened, but today I wanted to come back and talk about the 52 books I read in 2024. I'm very proud of that number. I didn't actually think I would read that much, and then somehow that happened. And also considering I read 3,000-page books, 1,000+ page books this year, somehow I also managed to still read 52 books. Like, that is great. Most of my books I rated 4 stars, which is also great. Pretty good to great. Just meant I had just like a fun year. So today I wanted to come and talk about all the books that I read, short little format, talk about them from my lowest rated to my highest rated, but don't think that the first one I'm talking about is my like absolute least favorite and the last one I talk about is my absolute favorite of the year. It's not organized that way. It's just organized from here were my 2 stars to my 5 stars. Don't expect any sort of summary kind of thing. I probably forget about that, and there might be some spoilers, but I'll try to minimize that, but also let you know when that's going to happen. So let's just get into it. I've got a bunch of books on the floor here that I have physically, and a lot of these I didn't. Doesn't look like there's quite a few that I did not read physically, and there's a few that I did read physically, but I don't actually have copies of it. Let's start with the books that I DNF'd. I don't rate my DNFs because I just feel like if I didn't finish it, then there isn't there to be rating it. So I DNF'd these at all various points. Let's see if I remember. So the first one I have here is Trouble the Saints. I just remember it was weird. Like, I wanted something from it and I was confused and I wasn't getting what I wanted, and something down about this, I'm not even kidding. I remember there was some weird line I heard and I went, no thank you. I don't even remember. Anyway, I just remember there was a weird line and I went, what am I even reading? So I quit that. That was such a disappointment. I don't even remember how far I got into that. It was somewhere before 50%. I am getting hot, sorry. We're going black t-shirt right now. And the next one that I DNF'd this year was Love on the Brain. I know this is by Ellie Hazelwood. I never really wanted to read this, but I do like Ellie Hazelwood books, but I don't remember how far. It was not far at all before I went, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this, and I DNF'd it. Jay's Gay Agenda. Gosh, could not stand Jay, and I quit before we even got to like the biggest plot. I remember him talking about how he couldn't wait to be his gay self, and then I read some spoilers that made it sound like all he did was like cheat, and I was like, I'm already not enjoying this. I don't want to read a cheating storyline. We're done. This one is Off to the Races. Gosh, this one could have been fun, but I never felt any spark between the two, and the male is supposed to be some sort of like they're both supposed to be like there's racehorsing. It's about racehorsing, and they're supposed to be like people that both know how to handle horses, and she's like off trying to train this really hard, anxious animal, and he keeps like sneaking up on the animal, and she's like riding it and doing other stuff with the animal, and I'm like, can we be smart? Like, I don't know anything about horses, but like maybe if we see someone riding a horse, we shouldn't go in and be like, what the hell are you doing? While she's still on the horse. Just saying. So those are the 4 that I DNF'd. I thought I would DNF more. Maybe I should have DNF'd more. But those are the 4 that I DNF'd in 2024. Now we're actually getting into the books that I finished. I have 2 that were unrated. First one, which is the first one I finished in the year, was Get a Grip. This one is just a businessy book. I read it for work. It counts. We liked it. I mean, it was fine. It was just a fine book. Kind of a nonfiction-y kind of one. I didn't feel right reading it. We have implemented some of the things talked about in that book at work, and it works out. So got that going for it. The next one that I didn't rate was Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. I kind of thought I would get something more out of this book than I did. I don't really remember anything it really said. It, I guess, wasn't as applicable to me as I had kind of gone in, maybe thinking it might be. Now we're getting into the sort of lowest to highest ratings. So first up, we've got my 2 stars. First one on this list is Darkhearts. This was about two teenage boys, one's like in some sort of famous band and the other one almost was in this band, and then they reconnect and a relationship blooms from there. I don't even fully remember. Only thing I remember is that it took place in a place I am familiar with, and I could tell that the person who wrote the book is familiar with this place. And I was right when I looked up where the author is from. I don't fully remember much else. I just remember I didn't really like anyone and I didn't like the relationship, and it was just a very book. But I listened to this as audiobook. This one was a full 2 stars for me. The next one is Unsouled. Kid who doesn't have a lot of power, who's now the main character. I don't know. It could have been fun. I was just so bored. I just remember, I think of this book and I think of how bored I was with it. This was also another full 2 stars. A little thing here where I have a hard time, I like never rate anything 1 stars because I'm like, if I finish it, then at least it gets a 2 star. But we're gonna try to fix that later on. Anyway, the next one on this list is A Tempest of Tea. I thought this might be fun. I like tea, so it says tea, I'm gonna be there. But I didn't realize it was vampires, and I'm not the biggest what I call creature fic fan. Again, I was bored. I didn't really know. I was confused too. I didn't really understand what was going on in the world. Kind of kept forgetting who the characters were, and yeah, overall it was kind of forgettable and not my cup of tea. So my cup of tea. So that was a 2 star. Next one on this list was a huge surprise, but it's Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I have a vlog where I read this, listened to it, and my gosh, the first 50% I had fun with, and then the last 50% was just this ridiculous continuation of miscommunication trope, which usually doesn't bother me, but it was bugging the crap out of me. I hated it. This book could have been like maybe 100 pages shorter if this miscommunication wasn't there or had been wrapped up nicely earlier, because I was at the end of my rope with this book. It was very frustrating. It was so frustrating to read. Next one on this list is Weyward by Amelia Hart. I also have a blog where I read this, I'm pretty sure. But this is also another straight up 2 star. I kind of went into this knowing I wasn't really going to like it, but I picked it up for free from a little library, so I wasn't going to complain. And I was curious enough to read it, obviously, why I picked it up, but not a fan. I went into this thinking I wouldn't really be a fan, but I'd hope to be proven wrong. I was not. I was right. It's an entire book about women being treated terribly, and I was just so exhausted. Like, there just really wasn't much hope. I didn't feel like there was much hope in this book. Maybe a little bit, but the kind of trauma in this book felt a little gratuitous, and it was hard to read, and I didn't really think that there was, like, it needed to necessarily all be there, so to speak. So, not a fan. I still own this, but it is going right back to a little library. Next one is Crossed by Death. This was a book I picked up like over a year ago on my Kindle. It was free at the time. I'm always down for a little cozy mystery, and at the time that I read this, which was recently, I had just finished another cozy mystery, and I was like, we'll give another cozy mystery a try as I try to kind of get through the backlog I have on my Kindle. This was so boring. The main character was all like, I don't want to be a part of this investigation, and like she wasn't, but she had a little romance going on with the sheriff, and so the sheriff just told her everything. And so you weren't a part of the like mystery part of it, but like you were, but you weren't. And then the end was so anticlimactic. Like, I came to that ending and I was so just like I was already bored enough as was, and then that ending happened and I got like mad. Like, it was so anticlimactic, and I just, yeah, no, this is a 2 star, but like, no. The next one on this list is Finale by Stephen Carver. I think this is the 3rd book in the Caraval series. I read all that this year. This one, my gosh, it was like too much and not enough. Like, nothing got room to breathe because something was always happening, and it was a mess. It was just a mess. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars, but like, my ratings are based on 5, so 2.5. They might get rounded up to like a 3 star, but this is really like a round down. So those were the 2 star kind of ratings. Next up, we've got my 3-star kind of ratings. Though I'm looking at this first one I have here, the first two really, and maybe these should have been rounded down to like a 2-star. Though they're sitting both here at 2.5. First one I've got here in this 3-star category is Even Though I Knew the End. I'm pretty sure that's, yep, Even Though I Knew the End. I did give this 2.5 stars. It was a novella, lesbian, kind of historical. Is there vampires? There's devils. Yeah, I don't know. I remember I liked the concept of it. I just think it needed to be a full story to be better fleshed out, because I don't think it was very fleshed out. And the ending I had seen coming, and I don't really like it. Next one is City of Strife. This is also a 2.5, but maybe it should be like a 2-star because I do not have good memories of this. There was just so many characters, and the villain is the type of character that just ultimately gets on my nerves. That doesn't make it bad. It just is a thing about me. That kind of factors in, but not really. But it was so many characters, and I was bored, and none of them felt like I never connected with any of them, and I can't and couldn't remember any of their names. So there's that. After that, I've got In the Event of Love. This was technically the first book in the sort of like small town romance series. I read the second one last year. You'll see on my Goodreads, I gave it 3 stars. I don't know why. That I did not like that second book. And I wasn't really planning to read the first one, but I needed something at the time. A few weeks ago, I read this one a few weeks ago. I needed something that was going to be light and not think too much, and I wanted it to be Christmas themed, so I picked this one up because I could easily get it from my library. It was fine. I liked it more than I liked the second one. I ended up giving this 2.75 just kind of because once we hit like that 50% when the two main characters, Morgan and Rachel, got together, I was just kind of bored. I don't know, like that first half I was kind of having fun with. It was fine. It was never going to be much more than a 3-star, but then the second half I just like could not wait for it to be done with because I just had stopped caring. Like the fun had run out for me. So that's a 2.75. This was also the book that I realized that what I think of as super smutty is completely off the charts for what I think the most common person who's watching this thinks is smutty. Because I've heard people describe In the Event of Love as super smutty, and there's a couple smut scenes, like explicit smut scenes. Morgan was pretty horny most of the time, but I come from a fanfiction background for many, many years, and a couple of explicit smut scenes does not make a very smutty book, like fic. And so I read these books that people describe as really, really spicy, and then I'm like, there was like one spicy scene. That's not very spicy. And now I've just realized that my what I consider to be super spicy is like way off the charts of what everyone else considers to be super spicy. So if I say something is not that spicy, probably take it with a grain of salt. Up next, we've got Caraval. This was the first book in the Caraval series. I read that for the first time this year, obviously. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. I mean, it was only a 3-star, but I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I thought it was a pretty solid, like, YA fantasy. I don't really have anything else to say. At 30 years old, I'm not the, like, person that YA is supposed to be for, so I don't get as much enjoyment out of YA, but I thought this was a pretty solid YA. After that, I've got Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Chalice of the Gods. The newest book in the, like, this is the first book in the newest Percy Jackson sort of series. Yeah, I thought this was fun. I think all the Percy Jackson books are fun. I think it's, yeah, this one I'm sort of pointing at, is this gonna be weird, is my Percy Jackson shelf, which is where this is. I like Percy Jackson. I think they're fun. Again, I'm not the target audience for this, but it's still a fun time. Solid 3 stars. After that, on this list is Teacher of the Year. This was fine. It's a queer male romance about a teacher who falls in love with one of his new students' dads, and I thought it was fine. It was fine. I feel like my biggest complaint is that they had a scene at the school in the photocopying room, and I'm like, come on guys, really. Anyway, it was fine. It was a fine book. 3 stars. So next I got Mixed Signals by B.K. Borson. I read this whole kind of series basically this year, but this is like a small town series, and this one I think is the 3rd. Each book takes place during a different season, so I was trying to read each book during its respective season. So this was the summer one. I thought it was really cute. The only issue, I feel like my biggest thing with it was that it had basically the same plot as Just for the Summer, and I had read Just for the Summer like a couple months ago, and I couldn't help but compare the two, and Just for the Summer is better. I think if I would have enjoyed this a lot more if I hadn't read Just for the Summer. But it was cute. These books are cute. I'm trying to decide if I still want to keep them or not. But that's another conversation for another day. Okay, so these ones are books 2 and 3 in a series. I can't remember the series name, but it's The Thief's Daughter and The King's Traitor. This was, they were both 3 stars. They followed this kid as he's in court. There's some fantasy elements there. They were fine. Like, I thought I would like these more. What is it? I think The Thief's Daughter I might have enjoyed a little bit more, but it was mainly because I liked reading about the two, sort of the main character and the girl he liked together, and they were a big part of those books. The King's Traitor I thought I would enjoy more, but again, I think I was mostly confused, and I'm trying to remember if was that the one? No, The Thief's Daughter was the one that I finished listening to on a road trip. But yeah, as you can tell, I don't remember much of these books, but they were 3 stars to me. So we've got this broken book. I don't really quite remember how that happened, but it's In the Weeds. This is the 2nd book in the little Light Farms series. I apparently gave this 3.5 stars. Like, this is fun, me coming back and looking at my ratings, because in my mind this is not a 3.5 star. It was cute, it was fine. I liked some of the representation in this book, but I didn't find the romance to be particularly, like, intriguing to me. I didn't particularly care about these characters and them together. But apparently I gave it 3.5 stars. After that, I have Funny Story by Emily Henry. Again, I gave this 3.5 stars. This is a book, I listened to it, but I think I would have gotten more enjoyment out of it if I had read it. So I am currently waiting for the book to come out in paperback, because all of them, except for a special edition of Beach Read I have all in paperback, and I want them all to match, and I do not want a random hardback besides the special edition of Beach Read. So I'm waiting for Funny Story to come out in paperback, and I think by the time it'll be long enough from when I initially read it. And so yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars. I really had high hopes for this one, and I was a little bit disappointed, but again, it could be the way that I had consumed it via audiobook, and I think I will have more of an enjoyable time with it if I actually physically read the book. Poison Study. This one follows a girl that is going to be executed, and then she's given the choice to either be executed or be the king's poison taster. I felt like you could tell that this had been written in like 2005, which it had been, or something around there. But otherwise, I'm still planning to finish up the series, but it hasn't been a priority. I gave this 3.5 stars. Up next is The Queen's Poisoner. This is the 1st book in the Thief's Daughter, King's Traitor, whatever that one is. I think I enjoyed it more because you're following our main character when he's like 8 years old, and my heart went out for that little boy that just wanted to play with his tiles and instead was in between a political clash. So yeah, I gave that 3.5. Here's the big surprise, was I read Icebreaker, and I also gave this 3.5 stars. I actually didn't think I would like this as much as I did, but I had a really enjoyable time with this book. Was it the best thing I ever read? No. Was it a fun time? Yes. So 3.5. Next one is Business Casual. This is the 4th book in the Light Farms series. This is like, if I'm gonna rate this whole series, I think Light Farms is my absolute favorite. Business Casual is a close second. I really enjoyed the story of Nova and Charlie. I thought they had a lot of fun together. There wasn't really a 3rd act breakup, which I really enjoyed, and yeah, it was super cute, and I really enjoyed it. I wasn't quite in the mood for this when I read it, but it was still like a really solid read. And those were my sort of 3 stars, ones that I felt like were more 3 stars than maybe what I actually gave. Next up is my biggest category, which is my 4 stars. So first on this list is Checkmate by Ali Hazelwood. This is her like YA one. I thought this was a very solid novel. I gave this 3.5 stars, but I really enjoyed, like, something about Ali Hazelwood's male characters just always gets me. I freaking love them. So while there was YA-ish tropes in here that I personally wasn't the biggest fan of, I still thought overall this was a very solid novel from her. Up next I have on here is The Devil Makes Three. Again, this was the 3.5 stars. This was kind of creepy. More so than I thought it would be, considering it's also YA, but it's about a couple teenagers at like a boarding school who accidentally release a devil. It was a lot creepier than I thought it would be. There's definitely moments, I listened to this as an audiobook, and there was moments that I was like genuinely kind of creeped out by. So again, very solid novel. This was 3.5, rounded up 4. Next one is Legendary. This was the second book in the Caraval series. I enjoyed this one the most. I know we're following the younger sister, and I enjoy her a lot more than I did the second sister. I think that's a pretty popular opinion. But yeah, I thought this one was a lot more fun, and I just had a lot more fun with this one. So 3.5, rounded up to 4. After that, I had The Last Murder at the End of the World. This is the newest Stuart Turton novel. Not as solid as maybe like the first couple, but I really enjoyed the sort of themes and topics about faith and what it means to be human that were explored in this novel. I definitely got a little confused at the end when it came to actually figuring out who done it. There was just a lot of stuff going on and I was a little confused, but overall I actually really enjoyed kind of what was talked about in this novel. So that was 3.5 for me. Up next is A Ruse of Shadows. I think this is Sherry Thomas, but this is like the 8th book in the Lady Sherlock series. This is just one that I read and I have a lot of fun with, obviously because we're 8 books in and I'm still reading it. I had a lot of fun with this one. I love those characters. I love the sort of world that they're building with it. I did really find a little issue with some of the, not representation, but how some things are talked about, but overall I still had a good time with it. 3.5 stars. Ooh, now we're getting into like the very solid 4-star again. And up here was Ninth House. This was a reread for me this year, actually. I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed this series. I feel like this first one, even as a reread, I kind of had still some of the same issues in that I got a little confused and I didn't feel quite as connected or with the story and the world and the characters, but I still had a really enjoyable time with it and I am really glad I read it. So 4 stars. Next up is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Like I said, I really enjoyed this as my very first Abby Jimenez. I'm glad it was this one and not yours truly. 4 stars, really enjoyed it. Again, she also had like a great male lead and I didn't find the female to be quite as annoying at all, really. It was just fun. It was a lot of fun reading this one. Up next is You Again. This one was one that I thought I would be obsessed with and I wasn't. So that kind of was where it got knocked down. But it was a lot of fun. I liked reading about these two kind of very unhappy and unpleasant characters that fit each other perfectly and make each other better. Romance, what can I say? Here's one of the 1,000-page books I read, which is Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. I think this one is the second. Pretty sure that's the second book in the Way of Kings series. I really liked it. I remember I was kind of bored with this one in a way that I hadn't been with the first one or the other ones afterwards, but it was still a very solid read and I enjoy Brandon Sanderson's books, so 4 stars for me. Next we got Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I read this one in one day on July 4th specifically. I did not set out to do that, it just is what happened and I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a lot of fun. Again, I love her male characters. I keep talking about her male characters, like I don't have anything against her female characters, I actually really like them, but I feel like it's not as common to come across a place where you just like absolutely fall in love with the male character, which is what happened here. Yeah, I read it in a day. It was quick, easy, fun read. After that I have Two Lives of Lydia Bird. I've been wanting to read this book for years. I loved this book. I loved the depiction of grief in this book. It just was something that I'm familiar with, that you love someone so much that it's hard to move on, but you end up moving on. Like you don't have a choice but to move on, and how you kind of get through that. Only thing that I sort of thought brought it down was that there was a romance that I just didn't feel like it needed to be there, if only because it didn't feel very fleshed out because you're focused so much on the grief of Lydia. But it was a very good read. 4 stars. Up next is I have A Scatter of Light by Melinda Lowe. Yeah, this one is the second one. after last night at the Telegraph Club. I really enjoyed this one. Not as much as I enjoyed last night at the Telegraph Club, but I did really enjoy this. I liked the ending the most. I just felt more realistic and better. And what was sort of fun about this book was that it took place in 2013, and the characters in this book were about the same age that I was in 2013, so it was just like a throwback of me remembering being that age in 2013. Really solid, really, I keep saying solid, but it's the truth. Really solid read. Like I said, I have a pile of books underneath me. But up next is Jade City by Fondly. Again, what am I going to say? It's a really solid read. I was so surprised by what happened mid-chapter, not mid-chapter, but like 50% through the way book. Like, I didn't actually believe what happened. I thought we were going to fake out. Apparently not, even though I'm still kind of convinced we're getting a fake out. But yeah, I didn't necessarily like this as much as I had thought I would after all the good reviews. I did find it a little hard to get into, and this was very much plot focused and not so much character, so I didn't feel as connected to the characters. At least that's my opinion of this. But I still plan to finish the series. I have the other two books, I just haven't read them yet. 4 stars for me. The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. Another very solid 4 stars. Mystery, slow sort of mystery about a girl at a summer camp who goes missing, and you're also trying to figure out that, while also her brother who had gone missing in like the same place years prior. I thought it was a very solid read. I liked sort of what it said about womanhood and misogyny and that kind of stuff without being too in my face about it. Ending seemed a little unrealistic, but I liked how, only way I can describe it is how quiet the ending, I thought the ending was, which fit the book. This is one of those books though that like as soon as I finished it, I was like ready to put this out on in a little library. Like, I gave it a 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I don't know that I need to keep it, which is a very confusing thing for me to be at. So it's been sitting on my shelf, but I think I may get rid of this. I don't know. We'll decide. I still like this, not for a room, but I really enjoyed this. Next on this list is All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. I think that's how you say it. I super duper enjoyed this. It was a very, very slow burn, but I thought it was appropriate and I thought it was very cute. Some of my concerns, is that the word I want to use? Not concerns. But some of the things I didn't really like in this book were that I felt like towards the end, there just was a lot of little tiny time skips, and I wasn't the biggest fan of that. And then I felt like a lot of the big plot points didn't get wrapped up until literally the last 10%, and I wish that had been sort of strewn out a bit more throughout the book. It didn't need to be all at the last 10% mark. But it was a very fun time. Really liked it. Would recommend. 4 stars. Next up I have is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. This was a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun. About a witch who then goes teaches some children witches. What did I think about this book? I liked it a lot. I thought it was really cute. It was hard to stop reading. I did feel like the relationships weren't very fleshed out. Like, I didn't really feel like I knew Mika and Jamie would end up together, but I didn't actually like it was. I felt like it could have been more seen in the book. And then, as a lot of people have pointed out, there was just like a random spicy scene in the middle of this kind of with them that very much felt like it came out of nowhere and didn't necessarily need to be in the book. But otherwise, again, what am I going to say? A very solid read, and I really enjoyed it and would recommend. It was super cute. Got One Dark Window and Two Choices Crowns. We're putting them together because I read them like one after each other, and they're also on my list one after each other. I really enjoyed these more than I thought they would. Like, is it the best book, fantasy books I've ever read? No, but did I have a lot of fun? Yes. They both got 4 stars for me. I think my biggest gripe is that I'm just like confused with the magic. Like they set their cards and each card has something different, but like, and they're trying to get all the cards, all the different cards, but at the same time I'm sort of like, is this like a full deck of cards? Are we talking like a 52 set? Like, how many people have it? Like, you give certain cards to certain people in the king's thing, what, a king's army or whatever, but like, do you have enough? Or like please someone answer my questions. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with those books. 4 stars. This is the one cozy mystery I read that I really enjoyed, which is The Last to Pie. This is a 3rd book, and I don't know, Pies Before Guys series, I think it is, where you follow our main character who has like magic powers where she can imbue her cooking, which in this case is pies, with things. So if she wants someone to tell truth sort of thing, you can put that into her pie, feed that to them, and they will start telling the truth to her. But she uses it mostly to kill abusive men. So she has like a sort of side business. Not really, she never charges anyone, but abused women can write into it and she will deliver a pie to them that they can give to their husbands, and the husbands will die. This one, a girl wrote in and didn't really follow the rules, so she wasn't gonna like go with it, but then her conscience decided to follow up on it, only to find that the girl has gone missing and her boyfriend is a cop. So it was sort of hard to read because it had to do with cops and an abusive situation. So take that with the, like, keep that in mind if you go into these books. But I really, really enjoyed this one. The second book kind of took out all the characters that you came to love in the first book and wasn't my favorite because of that. So this book went back to kind of its roots from the first book, and that you had all those characters again and that same. And so that was really fun to read again. I just really enjoyed this series. It's very fun. It's very interesting. Definitely keep in mind the trigger warnings, but I really like this. Not to mention it has good representation. It's got a lot of, our main character is bisexual. There's like a gay couple with a kid. Yeah, it's got some really good representation while also talking about some very relevant societal topics. So would recommend. After that, I've got The Nightmare Before Kissmas. This one was, I did not expect to like this one nearly as much as I did. I was solid 4 stars. Described as a Nightmare Before Christmas as well as a red, white, and royal blue. It's more red, white, and royal blue than anything else. You're following the son, one of the sons of Santa, and he falls in love with the Prince of Halloween. It's a lot of fun. I went in because I have the red, white, and royal blue. I went in knowing that this was going to be basically insta-love, and it was. But because I had that expectation, I had a lot of fun with this book. And there's a sequel that's going to come out some point that I will also be checking out when that does. But really, really enjoyed this one. So much fun. Next, we've got Beartown. This was my last read of 2024. As we can see, I picked up a very lovely copy that has a misprint and that it doesn't have that external name on it. But this was, wow, I don't know quite what I was expecting, but this was not what I was expecting. When I started reading this, I was not in the mood for it, so I did put it down for about a week and a half, and when I came back, I definitely was feeling it more. It was heavy, it was relevant, made me think a lot. I thought the first 50% I had a hard time kind of getting into it, but the second half I flew through. Also, whatever copy I picked up, this is such like a hard copy to read. Like, it's very dense. You can't feel it, but it is a very dense book. Not just in topic, subject matter, but like physically, this is a very dense book. Anyway, this was a 4.5. Well, this was a 4-star for me, not 4.5. This was a 4-star for me, but I am glad that I read this one. Next on this list is All the Light We Cannot See, following 2 characters during World War II. One is a German and the other is a blind French girl living through occupation. This was very, very interesting to me. I really enjoyed it. 4.5 stars. I think my favorite thing about this book is that I picked up this very lovely, basically unused hardcover, technically considered used at a local bookstore for like 11 bucks. The barcode here says 27 bucks. But yeah, really enjoyed it. I'm glad I have it and I'm glad I read it. And the last on this 4-star-ish list is Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. This one I gave 4.5 stars. I was pretty hooked pretty much the entire time I read this. I think this was one where one of my notes was that each section felt kind of rushed, which is a weird thing to say in a book that's like over 1,000 pages long, but that's how I felt. But overall, I was pretty much hooked the entire time, which is great. And now we're on to the creme de la crop. My 5 stars. These are my 5 stars. Again, no particular order. These are just the books that I rated 5 stars, and they are not like flip-flopping back and forth. These are solid 5-star books for me. So first on this list is The Way of Kings. This was the second book I read in the year, and I love this book. I feel like a lot of people were bored by Kaladin and his time as Bridge 4, but like, I don't know, I was hooked. I could not get enough of this book. It was so good. This one. Love in a Big City. 5 stars for me. This is not a book I would easily recommend to people. Not at all. I think a lot of people went into this with the wrong expectations because it says it follows pretty much a gay man and relationships and soul, but like that's not what this, like it is, but it's not about romantic relationships. And like he's a messy character, everyone is a messy character, but my god, did the like relationships just like talk to me, and I sobbed at the end of this book. And they have a show that came out a few months ago, I think it is now, and I have started watching it. I've only watched 2 episodes because the second episode made me sob. And then I pulled out this book, and where the second episode ended, which was like kind of the first relationship in this book, also I went and read some of those few lines I have tabbed here about that also made me cry. So we're taking that show slow because I don't know how much more I can put myself through with this book. But yeah, this just spoke to me on some deep emotional level that other books haven't. So this is not the book for other people. This is not the book for everyone, I should say, but it was the book for me. I also have Helmet, the second book in the Ninth House series. I don't quite know what it was about this one, but I felt so much more connected to the characters and the story, and overall it just gave me 5-star feelings. I had so much fun. Like I didn't feel like I was fighting myself to read this book in the same way I kind of felt when I read Ninth House, but I loved this book, and I can't wait for more in the series. And then one of my favorites, Last Night at the Telegraph Club. I loved this book. I loved the historical context of it and the sort of coming to terms with your one's sexuality journey that Lily goes through. I just felt was so relatable. Again, I think my only gripe though is the ending. It just felt really rushed and not exactly how I wanted it to go. Not how I wanted it to go. It just felt really, really rushed. But overall, I loved this book. And the last book I have that I rated, maybe I shouldn't have, but I did, is The Bookshop by Eben Friss. This is my type of nonfiction book. I loved it. It's the history of the American bookstore. I love learning about little random history facts, and this was exactly that. I did feel like it was kind of sucks that this only focused on bookstores in sort of the northeast, east coast of America, and some of the chapters I felt like should have been a bit longer, but overall I loved reading this. I love sitting down every night to read a new section of this book, and while most of the bookstores talked about in here are not operational anymore, it still has made me want to do a little like bookshop tour of this part of the country. So I think I have found nonfiction for me, and it is this book. I've had to like stop and restart my camera 3 times just to get through all that. That's it. That is all 52 books that I read this year. I know that was like rapid fire quick, but yeah, overall I think that's a pretty solid. We're gonna go with it. What are we saying? It's a pretty solid year. I am very surprised by how much I read, considering my goal was 40, but 40 is also, like, I usually set my reading goals to be achievable, but like not too hard. So 40 is something I can easily achieve, but I'm not going to get it in a month, if that makes sense. It feels just a bit like a challenge. But yeah, 52 books. I kind of got to December and was sort of like, oh, I'm so close to 52 books. Like, that's 1 book a week. So let's see if I can do it. And yeah, December ended up being one of my strongest reading months. I read 6 books in December. Do not know how that happens. Have you read any of these? What did you think of them? Do you agree with my feelings on these books? If you do, please let me know. I would love to know. I love watching these kind of videos and hearing what others think, because I definitely have watched some of the videos, and some people's thoughts on some of these books are not as favorable as my thought. So anyway, that's the fun thing about reading and humanity, is that we're all different. Thank you for watching, and I will hopefully see you again with another video, hopefully soon. Bye. We're good. Now I need to, this is what I've been working with, okay? This. Can we see it? Can we see it? Now I need to put all that